It's time for another edition of Dome and Domer.
Hey, Irish fans, welcome back to Dome and Domer, the oldest Notre Dame sports podcast on the planet. I'm your host, Mike Sullivan from the class of 90, and joining me are some great ND alums, Ed Jordanek, class of 89, Mike Brammer, class of 90, Mike Coffey, class of 91. Guys, let's get right into it. The most dominant performance of the year and the kind of game the team, the fan base, we all really needed to see a performance like this. It reminded me of last year's game at Purdue, coming off of the Northern Illinois game. You know, we were very shaky, and we went down on the road and dominated, arguably a bad opponent. But a performance like that can really propel you forward. So let's get into it a little bit. Mike Coffey, I want to start with you and just give us a sense. You're one of the administrators on ND Nation, and I'm curious as to, your sense of the fan reaction to this really great performance on ND Nation. What are you seeing?
Well, it was certainly 56-13. There's really not much to say about it. I think it was an outstanding performance. The defense was better. Again, it's a relatively low bar, but they certainly performed a little bit better than before. So, as I said last week, when there's a team that has an embattled coach, as Arkansas did, they can either decide they're going to play for their coach and really turn things around, or they can just kind of turtle up. And I think we saw what happened Saturday. Yeah. But that does not take away from an excellent performance, especially on offense. CJ Carr seems to be getting better and better every week, and it's equal parts exciting and frightening to think about what this team could be like, not only late in this season, but in the next season or two, with an actual seasoned quarterback with talent being on board from the get-go.
For sure. Again, another comparison to the Purdue game from last year is, I think, this probably resolves the coaching situation in Arkansas, right? Purdue's coach was effectively done after our shellacking last year, and I think the same thing down in Arkansas. Eddie Jordanek. Coffey just talked about CJ Carr a little bit. Share your thoughts on the offensive performance and the progression that CJ Carr is making right before our eyes.
Well, I think every quarterback's best friend is a solid running game. We didn't move the ball too well against Miami and Texas A&M consistently on the ground. And so now that arguably Love and Price are being deployed as the weapons that we know that they are, that just makes a very balanced offense. Now, that being said, CJ Carr can sling it. He's got all the throws. People don't, Mike Brammer probably does, Mike Sullivan probably does, but I don't, that throwback to Love, that's a very difficult throw to make, I think, right? It's a lot longer of a throw than people realize. And you're always throwing over guys that are 6'5", 6'4", 6'6", coming at you just by the nature of the way the play is designed. So, he's got all the throws. I think it's just, obviously hindsight's 2020, but it's just a shame that, Miami or Texas A&M weren't on the schedule in November instead of September, August, because I think that that would have balanced our schedule out a little bit in terms of this open playoff situation. Obviously, CJ Carr, if he stays healthy, is only going to get better. He's really, like Mike Coffey said, sort of the true sort of homegrown quarterback that I think we've always sort of hoped that we would develop and get. Again, hindsight being 2020, the game plan against sort of Miami that Denbrock put in place looks a little bit more questionable. But he's learning. He's got weapons. But now the bar is very clear. You got to win 8 games in a row and do it convincingly. Southern Cal, as usual, did us no favors because they're a bunch of choking losers. And we'll kind of see what happens. But they've got to win and win big. 8 weeks in a row. I guess there's another bye in there.
Okay, so we covered not only 2-3 weeks ago and the next 8 weeks. Right? So we've got the whole season now in a nutshell. CJ Carr.
I'm a perspective guy. You got to have the perspective.
I tell you, I thought a couple things about CJ Carr and Dante Moore, right? The Oregon quarterback who committed to Notre Dame for a very long time. And you look at both those guys look to be elite talents, look to be the kinds of quarterbacks that can take a team very deep into the playoffs. And, it's great to see our recruiting sort of get to that level where other top programs have been for a while. And you got to recruit a guy like Moore or CJ Carr. Like every year, you got to be in the hunt for guys like that, and you got to land them periodically. I love the throwback screen. You're right, Eddie. Just great athleticism, great touch. He makes it look easy. There was a play early. I think it was our first possession after we had given up the field goal. We're down 3-0. I think we had a third down, and we run that mesh route that everybody runs where you're crossing people. And he reads that it's not man coverage, it's zone, great poise, and finds the receiver who's sat down in the middle for a big first down. At that point in the game, we're trailing. And just plays like that he makes look so easy and effortless. Bram, thoughts overall on the offense, Carr, the running backs, whatever, offensively a dominant performance. What did you like?
Yeah, it was. And Ed's right. I mean, the running game does kind of open things up for you, but I just think that what's obvious is Carr's progression as a quarterback leading this team is happening right before our eyes. I mean, I thought he just was he made two mistakes the entire day, right? He pretty much threw an interception the guy dropped. I mean, that should have been an interception. But and then the only other mistake he made was the intentional grounding, but it didn't really matter. I mean, if he doesn't intentionally ground it, then he's down there and the ball turns over. But other than that, I mean, his accuracy is at another level. I mean, I don't really, it's been since Clausen, since we've had somebody like that can throw it that well and on a dime, and his deep throws are just really good. So I think this could be a very good team at the end of the year offensively, and I mean like within the top 5 in the nation if they continue at the pace that they're moving right now.
Yeah, I mean, overall, of course, he played beautifully, right? Just the stats are off the charts. I think he's going to be in the top 5, certainly top 10 in national passing efficiency when all those stats are out. We've seen now a couple times this year, I would like to see him just eat it in situations like that, not try to make sort of a over-the-top play when things are breaking down. We've seen a couple mistakes this year where maybe the better play is just to eat it, right? Or get 2 yards and whatever. But that's all going to come with experience and seasoning.
One thing I definitely wanted to point out, and we didn't see much of them, but that throw that Kenny Minchie made that was
the best throw of the day.
Right.
That was a hell of a throw.
I think it really. Let's not forget. A couple weeks back, they were reluctant to name a starter. They were saying, both these guys are showing something in practice, and I think that throw should remind all Notre Dame fans that there was a reason that this was a quarterback battle right up until the end of August.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think Kenny Minchie is super talented and it's great. The roster's talented. It's deep. And I think we're seeing that depth really be impactful in a variety of ways. And knowing that you got a kid like Minchie, as your number 2, that's a great position to be in.
Real quick, was that a walk-on that caught that pass? Who the hell was that guy?
Walk-on lacrosse player.
Yeah, Matt. Sorry,
Jeffries.
I can't remember his last name.
I think it's Jeffries. Yeah, he's one of the top lacrosse kids, and he's in the Jordan Faison mold. So that was kind of cool to see as well.
Nice.
Okay, the running backs. Oh my God, they're so gifted. Love to see Price 4 touchdowns last week, and Love then answers it this week. And I know it's a healthy competition, but just so talented. Okay, let's talk about the defense. Obviously a step forward and holding the number 8 offense in the country under 400 yards, 13 points. The Arkansas quarterback, I think, was maybe 3rd in the country in total offense per game. And while he got his in places, overall, we controlled him certainly and held him to 1 touchdown. So, Mike Brammer, we'll start with you on just sort of general defensive observations.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I still think it was a little bit of a bend, but don't break. We still are giving up too many big plays. I think there was 3 plays over 25 yards that we gave up. So that's the kind of stuff that you got to clean up. But having said that, there was a lot of just really improved play all throughout the defense. I thought Traore had a great game. Botello played really well. I thought Bowen played well. There were some big plays that he made. Adon Schuler is Adon Schuler. I mean, he's showed his impact and why we missed him. And Tay Johnson is just a stud athlete, man. He is going to be good. They got to find a way to keep him on the field because he is a real playmaker.
Well, you saw some of our young talent really flash, and Mark Zachary, made a play, and as you alluded to, Tay Johnson, the Bowen's quarterback hurry on that fourth down. That's a big play in the game.
It was
right?
huge. Yeah.
And Don Schuler punches that ball out. So a lot to like there. Botello, to me, played with such a fast motor and brought a lot of intensity. He chased the play down on the backside that just showed sort of the passion and intensity and urgency that I think Freeman's been talking about. Ed Jordanek, overall, the defense has justifiably been criticized, but the last, game and a half, are we pointing in the right direction or smoke and mirrors from your point of view?
Oh, well, we couldn't get worse. But no, I think we are pointing in the right direction. I mean, to me, it's always about points, like, explosive plays, yardage, yards after catch, all these different statistics to measure defenses. I mean, to me, it's about points. And, if we keep teams, it's pretty clear that if we keep teams to, 3 touchdowns or less, we should win. We should win every single game that we have left on the regular season schedule, because this is an offense that's obviously going to score minimum 3 to 4 touchdowns a game against the rest of its opponents. So I thought that the tackling was improved. I thought they wrapped a little bit better. There wasn't as much yards after contact. Now, Arkansas, I'm not as familiar with their running game. They started out, I think, with their top receiver making a couple catches, and it kind of looked like, here we go again. The way that the Tony guy from, I think, Miami, and the guy from A&M sort of victimized us. But then they bottled them up pretty well, and I think it goes back to what Brown was saying. They did get some pressure with 4 men and 5 men, and I don't know what the havoc statistics were that everybody loves, but I have to think that they were pretty good.
Yeah, 3 sacks, lots of hurries, and again, the hurries came in key situations. So from a pass efficiency defensive standpoint, the performance yesterday statistically was better than what we averaged last year, and we were the number 1 pass efficiency defense in the country. So that was a really good performance that factors in yards, interceptions, sacks, hurries, all those things. And, one of the leading quarterbacks in the country through 4 games really was largely controlled. Mike Coffey, your thoughts on the defense?
Well, I will cop to really not being a bend but don't break kind of guy. I'm not a fan of defenses like that. I think that's the way Ash has been leaning so far this year. That said, as I said before, certainly an improvement. And looking down over the next 2 weeks, 2 very beatable opponents at home, 2 more opportunities just to get better and shore things up. And I completely agree with just about everything Ed said. Like the statistically and fundamentally, there does seem to be improvement. There are still gaps where like guys were getting open, and certainly a number of drops didn't hurt us. But I think, yes, there's been improvement. I want to see more. I mean, when Southern Cal comes to town, I mean, that offense is going to test this defense like probably nobody since our first 2 games. So if there's any chance for the playoffs, we got to see continued improvements in areas where we still need it.
Did you guys get the impression that they simplified things? There just seemed to be a lot less pre-snap yelling and moving around and sort of disorganization. And I'm curious if maybe they just got into some base defenses and just played a little more than they have.
That would be interesting to find out. I don't know,
no, really hard to tell watching the TV.
But improved. There was definitely improved play. Like the tackling was noticeable. I saw that.
I would agree with that.
So I mean, there definitely is an improvement there. I think we still need some more improvement, but at least we're heading in the right direction right now.
Definitely.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, again, the number 8 offense in the country through a third of the season. Like, if our defensive stats are an indictment of who we are, then their offensive stats are as legitimate about how effective their offense has been. They were the number 8 offense in the country. I would take holding a top 10 offense to 367 in total yards. If we do that, Southern Cal, we're going to win easily. So always got to get better, always got to improve. But we saw a lot to like from the defensive side of things in terms of pressures, sacks, turnovers, tackling, and making big stops in key moments. So now, kudos to the coaching staff, Marcus Freeman on down, and that includes Chris Ash, that everybody was calling for his head after the first game. And I think the things that Freeman talked about relative to culture and ownership, accountability, this is what makes Marcus Freeman, I think, one of the coaches that people point to and say he's one of the top coaches in the country. I don't think anybody's saying he is an X and O innovator and guru. Lane Kiffin has that reputation, right? Lincoln Riley has
maybe
some
going for it on
like
4th
that.
down on your own 30 would be.
Well, I want to come back to that.
Yeah.
So, but I think you see their backs against the wall. Last year, we respond with the performance at Purdue. This year, this performance. And, here's a play to me that's indicative of some of that. We throw a little wide receiver screen in the second half to Malachi Fields, and Jeremiah Love is the lead blocker in that, and absolutely gets into the guy's shoulder pads, knocks him back, and we pick up the first down. And that's Jeremiah Love running the screen there, right? So the unselfishness, and you just see it on display. That, again, I remain really confident in this. Now, I didn't love the fake punt. Great design and execution. I just felt like in that moment, after they go 3 and out, the risk of getting them back in the game, giving them life, I didn't love it. However, it worked out, so it's fine. Bram, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's look, I like it. I like Marcus Freeman because I wasn't expecting it. It was the last thing I thought I was going to see.
Right.
And it was well executed too. Now, to your point, what if the ball just drops? What if he just overthrows it by a hair? What if, all of a sudden you just turn the ball over, they go in and score a touchdown? Holy cow, now what? But the fact of the matter is he grabbed a hold of it. I mean, that's that 4-minute end of the first half, 4-minute start of the second half. And he was not willing to give that up after what looked like a quick 3 and out. And, that has an impact on the game. I don't care what anybody says. That has a mental impact. Maybe it's only in that moment because we did just got one more first down and then turned the ball over on downs. But it stretched that second half and limited what Arkansas could do and just put more pressure on them in terms of them getting back in the football game.
I also think that what happened there links up really well with what Mike Sullivan just said, right? So part of culture and part of being a good coach is having your players back and giving them the feeling that they can do anything at any time, at any point in the game, that you have that confidence that they will pull it off and execute. So, when that call comes into those guys, and it's, again, element of surprise is a big part of trick plays. Certainly that existed there, but what also existed was letting his guys know, like, okay, we've got to put the hammer down here, and this is my part of it, and I think you guys can, we've practiced this, you guys can pull it off. So developing that sort of confidence, I think, in your guys is, I think, a big part of culture. Trusting them, right? When they believe that you believe in them, I think that goes pretty far. So I didn't have a problem, with the call. Like, I got a couple of texts like, why aren't we saving that for a bigger game and a bigger situation? I mean,
they got more
whatever.
Plays.
It's one game season, right? So
yeah, Eddie, the belief in the players for sure, right? That goes a long way in continuing the culture. Mike Coffey.
Well, I agree with both. The 2 reasons I like the call is, number one, offense is our strength, and I believe that's kind of a water is wet kind of thing at this point. But I think at the point that they were at in the game, the key is going to be hang on to the ball as much as possible because we want to shorten this game. Because the only thing, when you go up into halftime with the kind of lead that we had, the only things that can really happen in the second half are bad. So what you want to do is shorten the game as much as possible, keep everybody from getting hurt. And all. So hanging on to the ball, which is our strength, would allow us to keep the clock running and accomplish that. The second thing is, I think Marty Biaggi wanted to have like our opponents down the rest of the way. Hey, take a look at this play. You're going to have to prepare for this now, or you're going to have to watch for this. And yeah, we might have been able to keep it for another game, but there's not a doubt in my mind Biaggi's got another 3 plays that he hasn't shown anyone yet that he can pull out in those situations. So keeping special teams coaches on our schedule on their toes is probably a good idea.
Well, yeah, I'm a little more in the conservative camp. At that point in the game, I want them to have to go the long way. I don't want to give them a short field. All that plays into the time management piece, et cetera, et cetera. However, you know what? You got to ultimately trust Freeman's instincts. He is a bit of a gunslinger in that sense. He does like to go for it, and he does like to roll these things out when you don't expect it. So I do trust in Coach Freeman's judgment. Okay, the dose of energy and momentum that we needed, we're going to use that, and it's going to propel us onto a long run, as Ed Jordanek indicated. We're going to be favored in all the games the rest of the way, and we're poised for good things ahead. So we'll begin talking about the Boise State matchup here tomorrow. We'll look at Coach Freeman's press conference and have more conversation around the progression of the defense, the dominance of the offense, and the amazing trickery of the special teams. So please, if you like Dome and Domer, like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. For Ed Jordanek, Mike Coffey, and Mike Brammer, I'm Mike Sullivan. We'll see you next time on Dome and Domer.